भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिः यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवांसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति नः इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नः तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः देवं नारायणं नत्वा सर्वदोषविवर्जितं परिपूर्णं गुरुंश्चान् गीतार्थं वक्ष्यामि लेशतः. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening for Satsangi. So I've joined for part B of Vishvarupa Dharshana Yoga. So over to you, Suresh ji, to take us through the rest of the session.
Thanks, Madhuji. Are the slides visible?
Yes, Suresh ji.
Yeah. So thank you all. We'll begin with a small prayer. Manojabam marutatulyavegam jitendriyam buddhimatam varishtam vatatmajam vanarayuta mukhyam shriramadutam sharanam prapadde buddhirbalam yashodhairyam nirbhayatvam arogata ajadyam vakpatutvancha hanumat smaranad bhavet. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Welcome everybody to the second session on chapter 11, a wonderful chapter which is enthralling, I would say, as we try to understand more of it. What we will do in today's session, we'll briefly recap what we discussed in the first session and then begin the journey of the description of what Sanjay and Arjuna saw in this session. So that's the agenda. We'll see how far we get to it. Just to place the chapter into context very briefly, we remember chapter 1 when Arjuna was telling Krishna, Ahobata mahatpapam kartum vyavasitamaya. What, Krishna, what is it? We would have been committing such a grave crime had I gone and forward and listened to you and fought this war. What was I thinking and what were you telling me? That was the state of mind when the Bhagavad Gita starts very much in chapter 1. And now we are at a stage somewhere in the middle, towards the end of second Shatka in chapter 11, where Arjuna is saying, Madanugrahaya paramam guhyam adhyatma sangnitam yatvayoktam vachastena mohoyam vigato mama. I think I have got rid of my confusion. Well, and contrast this with what he actually says in chapter 18, very towards the very end of Bhagavad Gita, where he says, Nashto moham smritir labdva. So we are in this journey from Tirodhana of Arjuna, from where he was full of ego, asking Krishna to park his chariot in the midst of the two armies, to the entire moha being totally destroyed. So we are right in the middle where Krishna has laid the mental construct for Arjuna, and now he is going to show something which has never been seen by anybody else before. And what's been Krishna trying to tell Arjuna all the time? He's just been saying, Hatova prapsisi swargam. He's just telling him, go do your duty, right? What's going to happen? If you die, so be it. You will go to Swarga because you are doing the right thing. If you win anyway, you are here to rejoice the fruits of your victory. So stand up. I mean, tasmat tvam uttishtak. I mean, so stand up and fight the war. So that's the push towards doing one's duty is what Krishna is pushing Arjuna towards. So what did we do in the last chapter? Last session, is we tried to put the entire Vishvarupa Darshana into context, and towards which we took the help of two wonderful verses from Harikathamritasara. We started with the uh, the first verse of Harikathamritasara, where which we referred to was Vanduro Madalandu. I mean, even if you go to the smallest imaginable visible particle, which here was compared to the hair follicle in a human body, even within the thinnest component of that particular hair follicle, you could actually see the entire Brahmanda. You could see Vishnu is present there. He is simply all pervasive, is what we were saying. So, what that fundamentally meant, and which Venkiji explained, was that this form of Lord Krishna, this form of the God is beyond measure. It's beyond scale. That's where the concept of infinity came in, and fractals was one of the examples that was used. So, if something is beyond scale and beyond measure, fundamentally it means that it's beyond compare. And if it's beyond compare, I mean, how does one comprehend? We then took resort again back to another verse from Harikatha Amritasara, where he said, the forms are there. I mean, don't worry about it. It is your ability to see. It's you. I mean, he is present everywhere. It's not that the elephant does not exist, but then it could even be, nine women there standing together, Navanari Kunjara. I mean, if you go deeper into it, the Lord is present everywhere, both within and without. So that's the message that we just tried to discuss in quite a bit of detail in the last session, signifying the omnipresence, the omnipotence of the Lord. And now, in the context of chapter 11, Arjuna is now in a state of mind where he is ready to see something which is, beyond something that could be described, beyond what the material mind could actually grasp. So that's where we were. And some briefly, some of the questions we discussed then was the questions we asked were, why now? Why show? What about us? And what's the contextual relevance of chapter 11 within, say, the Upanishads that we are learning? Madhuji gave us, explained it wonderfully well. And then two things, and then we came to the question of what is Vishvarupa Darshana and Aparoksha Jnana. We'll spend a few minutes to just touch upon this in this session for the sake of continuity, and then we will quickly move on to the contents of chapter 11. But a new question popped up thanks to Neetaji while these discussions were going on post the session was, who is a drashtara in all this context? Who is a seer? Who is a seeker? Who is a seer? So I just thought maybe one way to look at that question was go back to chapter 6, where you have a seeker and a seer, Aruruksho and Yoga Rudha. And a seer is something, a seeker is after experience. A seer is something who is beyond experience, who's actually able to intuit even things that are beyond experience. And as the experience keeps on getting deeper and deeper, the seer's vision perhaps keeps on increasing. And the ultimate seer is someone who can see to the all that is possible to be seen to the best of one's own capacity. We'll park that question a little bit and maybe revisit it later in the sessions. But coming back, there were two fundamental concepts that were discussed in detail in session 1. What is the meaning of buddhigrayam and atindriyam, which Venkiji did explain, and what is Vishvarupa and what is Bimbarupa, which Madhuji actually explained. I've just borrowed a few slides from both of them. And the next, we'll just go through them very briefly. And if I do misspeak anything, I request both of them to actually jump in and correct me. But a few slides on chapter 6 again by Venkiji, just to say that what do we mean by, and why this Buddhigrayam and Atindriyam will become clear as we go through it. We generally perceive through our sense organs. And it is our mind, our buddhi, our comprehension capacity. So fundamentally, when we are awake, we are dealing with this plane. There is an object, there are sense organs, and there we are, transacting on a day-to-day basis. That's what we do when we are awake. But when we are in a state of dream, there is no contact with the external world. So the entire movie is being playing in our mind, and it's something real, and we react to it. We have nightmares. I mean, we remember them very vividly, many a times. Sometimes we don't remember them, but it is something that we are able to perceive and experience, and that's something real in the dream state. But then what happens when we go to deep state? At the time of deep sleep, there is no, it's not in the present continuous tense, so to say. There is no concurrent experience of the deep sleep. There is only a retrospective recollection that I had a very sound sleep. Now, if we can bridge that gap, that this retrospective recollection of the deep sound sleep, wherein we are perhaps closest to our Bimbarupi Paramatma, if that is something that becomes present continuous, and if we are able to comprehend, remember, and experience that, not as a recollection, but as something that is ongoing, perhaps is where, it's beyond the sense organs, but we are still getting the experience, something similar to what we have got, what we would have got had we been awake. But this is deep within while we are sleeping. So when we talk of Vishvarupa Darshana, some of these contexts I think become very relevant, especially when we will see that the Lord is gracing Arjuna with Divya Chakshu and some of those discussions as they come in. So I guess this was something important to keep in mind. And Madhuji actually went over what's the difference between Vishwarupa Darshana and Bimbarupa Darshana, Aparoksha Jnana. The Vishwarupa Darshana is external, temporary, observable, while the internal is something that you see with your eyes closed. External is something that you're actually seeing with your eyes open. The form is all encompassing. The Bimbarupa Darshana is a very unique form that is specific to each individual. The Aparoksha Jnana is intimate, it's personal, while the Vishwarupa Darshana is awe-inspiring. It's a spectacular event. And fundamental key messages are that the Vishwarupa Darshana is telling us that all things are in Vishnu, and the Bimbarupa Darshana is telling us that Vishnu is in all the things. So that's the context we had set in the last session. So with that, now with the Adhyatma as our bow, and let us, acquire whatever knowledge that we can accumulate. Madhuji has been teaching us, and we have an august learned audience here that can help us understand, sharpen our mind so that we get prepared. A proper understanding of this will perhaps set the stage for bhakti, which is the next chapter that we will be looking into. So that's our preparation to now delve straight into chapter 11. So here's the first verse of chapter 11. Arjuna is saying, Madanugrahaya paramam guhyam adhyatma sangnitam yatvayoktam vachastena mohoyam vigato mama. So what I thought we could do is we'll not go through textual meaning, but we'll just pick up a few words and try and go deeper into these verses. So the first question which pops up is anugraha. So what does anugraha mean? Now, many a times it's just translated as grace, but Bananji clarifies that it's not just grace. When it's a very loose translation, so to say. When says I have somebody's anugraha, which means that there is all of this empathy, kindness, whatever it is, everything with the intention of uplifting me. There is concern, and it's not just feeling sorry for somebody, or it's just saying understanding somebody's situation, but with the explicit context of trying to help me and uplift me. And that is exactly Arjuna's situation here, and that's what he's telling Krishna. I mean, it's the 10 chapters which led to my state of getting rid of my confusion, mohoyam vigato mama, that you did with the sole intention, with a very explicit intention of uplifting me and helping me. And Madanugrahaya is also a very interesting, this one, again, a superficial translation there would mean anugraha on me, but I guess the root word there, madan, comes from the mat dhatu, and then it means for all deserving. So the teaching, why now, the question that we had asked, is Arjuna is very clearly saying that it's not just me, because what the Lord does cannot be to any one specific individual. It's for his entire creation. It is for the all deserving that this entire chapter and Bhagavad Gita has taken place. So Madanugrahaya. Now, next word that comes up there is Paramam Guhyam. Now, what is Guhyam here and what is Paramam here? I picked up a few words, a few verses within the Gita where these two words do come. There are a few more, but I just picked four. Iti gui hetamam shastram. Iti te jnanamakyanam guhyad guhyavataram maya. I mean, it is secretive. And Paramam, we have seen it comes in Paramatmatma Javrutaha. I mean, it comes in different instances. So, two interpretations here perhaps. It is Guhyam because it relates to understanding the nature of the Lord, Paramatma. So that perhaps is one understanding of it. And why is it secretive? Madhuji has told us enough number of times that this adhyatma, is not, it's not only, it's not for the weak-hearted, but it's also not something that's to be discussed over the pub. I mean, that it is meant for the deserving, for the adhikari, to be able to understand this. Or the other way perhaps is, of all the secrets, of all the guhyams, this is paramam guhyam. This teaching is perhaps the most secretive, fundamentally meaning that only the best of the deserving will have access perhaps to this knowledge, and they can benefit from it. So I just thought, so that's the context in which Paramam Guhyam was referred to here. And the next question is why only Adhyatma here? I mean, I was reminded of chapter 8, where we talk of a lot of Adis there. Adidaiva, Adhyatma, etc., Adhibhuta. But perhaps Adhyatma here is because Atma has many different meanings. It could be preparedness. I mean, it could be mind, it could be soul, or it could be Lord himself, Atma. So perhaps when he says Adhyatma is used, it is preparedness. It's the teaching of teaching of life sciences, which prepares us because we for all the deserving seekers, so to say. And the last question that I had just popped in there was Mohoyam Vigato Mama. Interest of time, the idea was to pause here with each question, but I don't think we have the time. I'll just go through the remaining verses and then open it up for comments from the panel. Unless if there's any specific clarification, I would specifically request the panel members to correct, pause, or add as we go through these slides. Moving on to the next few verses, I just.
Actually, Anandji has raised his hands.
Anandji, please.
Yeah, I was looking at the why Paramam Guhyam, and you quoted that Iti Guhyatamam. If we recall, at some point, I think Venkiji and Madhuji discussed about Para, Paratara, and Paratama. So it is similar, on a similar note, it is Guhya, Guhyatara, Guhyatama. So in the context of that particular verse, Iti Guhyatamam Shastram, and because we know that there is Kshara and Akshara and superseding all this, there is Purushottama. So it can be considered at the level of Guhya, at the level of the soul. Guhyatara at the level of Sri Tattva. Guhyatama is the Supreme Lord.
Excellent. Thanks, Anandji. Yeah, makes absolutely. Yep. So, yeah, so we just move on then to the next set of three shlokas. I club them together, and the questions there were basically the first one being, uh, what did Arjuna realized Bhavapya bhutanam shrutau vistara shomaya. Bhava apya. What do these words mean? Bhava apya is creation and destruction, uh, birth and death. But bhava apya also means of sukha prapti, and apyaya also means means of dukkha nivrutti. So it is basically the life science. It is how does one lead one's life. So that's what Arjuna is saying here when he is using the word bhava apyaya. Is Arjuna still confused? Is a question that could be, still persisting. But very clearly, Arjuna is saying that in definitive terms, he is telling Krishna that, everything that you have taught me till now, whatever you have told in the last 10 chapters, I totally get it. And I know that is absolutely true. I mean, there's no confusion left in Arjuna's mind at this point of time. And an interesting point that comes up, and again, Bananji picks it up very beautifully. He says, what does Arjuna want to see? I think he uses two words. He uses te rupam and atmanam. Now, te rupam is that form. Now, atmanam is his his swarupa. So fundamental question is, what is it does he want? What is it that Arjuna wants to see? I mean, does he wants to see the Lord's forms, or does he wants to see the Lord himself, irrespective of the form? And the resolution there is, we should remember that Arjuna is Aparoksha Jnani himself, and to him there is no confusion, that there is no difference between any of the forms, any of the whatever within the Lord, there is no difference whatsoever. Either you call it as te rupam or atmanam, it is one and the same, is what Arjuna, and therefore these two words. A
So,
few, yeah.
Sureshji, sorry, I just want to interject very briefly. Very
Please.
interesting. You said Atmanam Te Rupam. That is what he wanted to see, and as Bananji was pointing towards that. The other thing I found interesting in the third verse is the last line, Purusha. He said Purusha. He could have said Krishna. You could say Drashtumichami Te Rupam Aishwaram Krishna or Vasudeva or something like that. He said Purusha, and then Purusha Uttama. He said Purusha. Why that word Purusha has been said? But then if you think further, what was that vision that was shown to him is the Purusha Shukta's vision that was shown to him. So he is also implying, show me that Purusha, that you are there in the Purusha Shukta form. I just thought that Purushottama word was also interesting there, telling us about the Sahasra Shirisha Purushaha. That is what the Vishvarupa is talking about. So there is a hint already there. Thank you.
Thanks, Madhush. Thank you. So then, important to just, a few adjectives that have been used for Krishna here. Kamala Patraksha. It's a kind of a something that you admire. I mean, eyes, when the way Patra, I believe, also means Palakanapi Trayate, the one who protects the world. I mean, when Arjuna is using the word Kamala Patraksha, it's not just praising Krishna to say that you are great, but what he's fundamentally telling Krishna there is that you are the one who protects those who protect the world. I mean, the entire devatas, those who are running this world, and those who have, I mean, you are the protector of those who protect the world, is what the word is actually meaning. We've talked about Parameshwara. Anandji just referred it. Isha, Ishvara, Parameshwara. Purushottama, we have talked about it, I think, enough number of times as to what that means. The interesting thing here was Prabho. I mean, omnipotent, capable. He says, Manyase edita chakyam maya drashtumiti prabho. When he's, why is he addressing Krishna as Prabho here? Prabhu is somebody who is capable, who is omnipotent. I mean, say, for example, even if for whatever reason, Krishna, you think or you believe that I do not have the ability to see, you are omnipotent, you are capable of everything, you are Prabhu. You can, make me see. I mean, it's not very difficult thing for you. I mean, I guess it is one, the appreciation of the or the knowledge of omnipotence of Krishna himself, which is being conveyed, and also perhaps a slight suggestion to say that somehow, enable me. And he's of course telling him using the word Yogeshwara, one who provides the ability, one who possesses the ability to resolve. And I just quoted Vishnu Sahasranam there for context. So the next verse, I'm just moving slightly quickly here, just in the interest of time. Pashyame Partha Rupani. And this is what now Krishna is saying. I mean, that's Arjuna has now made his request. I want to see. And then this is how Krishna is replying. Pashyame Rupani, Partha Rupani. Now, Arjuna said, I want to see Te Rupam. And the answer Krishna is giving is Rupani, means I want to see that one form of yours. And Krishna is saying, you can see all my forms. Again, fundamentally conveying the concept that there is no difference between one form and another. It doesn't matter what you see, you're seeing the Lord. So the other question which I thought we'll briefly touch upon here is what's the essential quality to be able to see? And Krishna uses the word Partha to address Arjuna here. And what does Partha mean? Partha, Artham Patiti. Partha is somebody, Tirtha, Partha, I mean, is somebody who is crossed the ocean or who's landed on the other side by acquiring knowledge, and he or she should be acquiring the right kind of knowledge, the right understanding or the right meaning of the Vedas, which becomes an essential quality to be able to see. And what can Arjuna see? Shata Shota Sahasrasha, Nana Vidhani Divyani, Nana Varna Kriti Nicha. So this is what Krishna is already telling him. You will be able to see all of this. And what's exactly that Arjuna sees is something that Shushruji and Anandji will lead us through as we go through further in this particular chapter. I just put some names of Pruthu, I mean, the sisters of Pruthu, just for reference. When it came to Nana Varnani, I said the four fundamental colors here. Vasudeva represents white, Sankarshana represents white, Pradyumna yellow, and Aniruddha black, as for our reference and contemplation. Then he says the
Anand,
next.
Suresh, Anand has raised his
Yes,
hand.
Anandji, please. Sorry, I
Just
can't see who's raising the
just a
hand.
quick question. You put the colors for the four Vyuha forms. What will be the color for the Narayana? Is there any guesswork there?
Aditya.
Is it
No, Anandji.
because it comes later? The reason I'm
Yeah,
asking it comes later,
yeah.
so I will probably discuss there. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. But four fundamental colors, and these are the four. This one's we see only three, but here it is four that have been described here. But that I guess also needs to be reconciled somewhere, and how. To be honest, I have no clue. So, yeah. So quickly on the next question, he says Pashyadityan Vasun Rudran Ashwinau Marudastatha. So who are these? Again, I'm not going to go through all of these, but this is again will be on the slides for reference. Who are the Adityas? Who are the Vasus? Who are the Rudras? The Maruts and the Ashwins. But why these is the question. I mean, he could have said chosen anybody, right? Because he's going to see everything. But Krishna is actually picking up and saying that you can see these. And if you look at chapter 10, There, when he started, he said, Adityanam Aham Vishnu Jyotish. I mean, the order there was different, and the order here seems to be different. And the question of why is fundamentally what, when you start to see the first thing Krishna seems to be telling Arjuna is that you will see the Ganadevatas of Vaivasvata Manvantara. So that's the message that that's as to why these three. And he uses another adjective here. He calls him Partha alone, I mean, we described, no, you need to be even, Partha alone may not be sufficient. Being Partha, you need to be totally engrossed in me. Bharataha. So that is what Bharata means. So that's the adjective that Krishna is using here for Arjuna. I mean, you need the right knowledge, and then bhakti becomes emphasized here. It's also another name of Bhima. You need to have the grace of Vayu and to be able to pursue this path. Question here, has this form been seen before? The usual answer would be that yes, Vishvarupa Darshana has been seen before. There are quite a few, I mean, we can contemplate. But this particular form perhaps was never seen before, and Krishna himself says this later in the chapter when we come to the verse. And the other interesting question that came up for us to contemplate perhaps, and we can discuss it in the question answer session, just looking at the time here. Here, Krishna has explicitly said that I will enable you by giving you specific vision, but it's in no other instance has he actually said that I will enable you. So how does that reconcile is an interesting question to contemplate, and maybe we can pick it up in the Q&A sessions. And just on the last slide here, having seen this, very interestingly, Krishna says, Yachanya drashtum. See whatever you want to see. The question I had was really, could Arjuna actually, and similarly, he has a similar thing way ahead in chapter 18 when he says, Yathechasi tata karu, do whatever you feel like. And it leads us to the question of Jiva Kartrutva, which we had discussed quite extensively previously. I think it will be important to remember that as we get into contemplation of chapter 11 per se. When and where did Arjuna get the name Gudakesha? Is again an interesting concept. He gets this name, I understand, is because of what the picture denotes here. And so that's something we can contemplate a little more. And then the question is, there are two chakshus that come in this verse. Natumam shakyase drashtum anenaiva swachakshushaha divyam dadamite chakshuhu. So two things here. What is swachakshu and what is divya chakshu? So what does divya here mean? And this is where perhaps we had contemplated a little earlier about what is buddhigraya, atindriya. So the chakshu is something which will make us comprehend something which is beyond what our material experience can teach us. So that is what Krishna is going to be enabling Arjuna to be seen, and a couple of other instances where chakshush is being used. So having said that, endowed with this divine vision, now what does Arjuna see? What does Sanjaya see? Is something, it's an amazing description there that we will undergo. And I will hand it over to Shushruji and Anandji for the rest of the session. But I'll just pause here for a few, maybe a minute or two from the panel in case there are any additional comments or any other thought processes that they would want to share before Anand and Shushrut begin the description of the next part of the chapter.
Sureshji, Prakashji has raised his hands. Prakashji.
Okay. I have a question here in the sense that it's not question, it's just to think about it. Arjuna wants to only one form, Rupam, in singular. Krishna says that he will show many forms. Why is the question? Think about it. Think about it.
Yeah, interesting, Prakashji. Yeah, thank you. If there's no further addition there, then I'll stop sharing and Shushruji and Anandji, if you could please take over.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Anandji, are you sharing the slides?
Can you see anything? No.
No. It came and went.
1 second.
A flash of aproksha jnana.
Why is this?
Oh.
Share. Better?
Yeah, no, slideshow.
Oh, this is
I
coming.
think when you go to slideshow, it's disappearing.
So maybe Anandji, just leave it as just presentation. Don't put the slideshow. Just maybe.
No, it's
No, Anand, perhaps put it on slideshow first and then share.
all right.
Don't share it after putting it on the slideshow.
Okay. So whilst you're doing that, Prakashji's question as to, when Arjuna said, show me one form, why he showed many forms is an interesting one. So probably Anandji will come back to it, or Sushruji will come back to that for a overarching onslaught on that particular topic from various schools. I think that'll be interesting.
Okay,
You can see it
make
now.
a start. Yes, thank you, Anandji. Hari Om, Gurubhyo Namaha, Hari Om. So imagine the scene. Close your eyes and think about the blind king Dhritarashtra sitting in his palace in Hastinapur, far away from the battlefield, where two mighty armies are already engaged in a gruesome war. The king is blind, yet he can see everything. How is that ever possible? Anyone from the audience?
Through Sanjaya?
Excellent. Yes. So Sanjaya is one of the key characters in Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita. So he can't be an ordinary human being, can he? He has been given 67 verses to say in Bhagavad Gita. So that must make him special. So does anyone have an idea who Sanjay actually is? Okay.
So Sushuji, your picture there itself is a clue there. Dhritarashtra is sitting and Sanjaya is sitting. So they are of the same clan. They belong to the same category of devatas, not devatas, but exalted souls that come down. We all know that in Mahabharata, first all the gods' family come down and they set the scene, and then Krishna makes an appearance. So these two guys belong to a family of exalted souls. They're not mundane blind fellow and a charioteer. So that idea of some blind king and a charioteer we have to eliminate in our consciousness, because that is what Srimad Acharya has done in Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnaya, that he has actually asked us to look at Mahabharata from a philosophical perspective very, very carefully, rather than some mundane blind fellow and a charioteer. Say they're in a different clan is what I wanted to contribute. But over to you, Sushuji.
Indeed. So we can move to the next slide, please. So Sanjay actually is no ordinary human being. He is an avatar of a lead Gandharva called Tamburava or Tambura. There are different versions of it. And he also has an Amsha of one of the Maruds called Uddhavaha. So he is actually a Jitendriya. He is the master of his senses. He was a keen disciple of Vedavyasa himself. And as per from his ancestry point of view, he is the son of Gavadgana or Gavalgana, who was the charioteer of Vichitravirya, who is the father of Dhritarashtra. So he grew up along with Dhritarashtra as his childhood friend, and Dhritarashtra trusted him immensely. And as Madhuji has mentioned, they are both Gandharvas. Dhritarashtra himself is a Gandharva. And amongst Gandharvas, Tambura is his leader, so to say. So he actually trusts him a lot. And also going back to the analogy of Katha Upanishad as the charioteer. So Sanjaya is the controller of the mind. He has his mind under full control and he is narrating the Mahabharata as it happens. And in fact, he even criticizes Dhritarashtra, which no one else will have the guts to do so. So that is why Sanjaya was chosen as the narrator rather than anyone else. So obviously, he is telling him lots of things. He has been given this boon of clairvoyance, so to say, but it is not just the vision. He was given also the boon of clairaudience. So he could actually hear what was happening and read the minds of the people on the battlefield. So is there any modern technology that this reminds you of?
So, Sushuji, the Secret Service uses this all the time. Yeah, you can have something put in here, and you can transmit the stuff, and then you can also wear a glass, and then you can actually have a camera there, and you can see it. So, our Secret Services uses this quite a lot with various modern technology.
Modern technology, yes. But this is beyond what human beings can imagine at the present moment. Certainly, all these things about live streaming and spies talking to each other, virtual reality. But this was a step further than that. So modern technology cannot really compare what divine vision Sanjaya had been given by Veda Vyasa. He's not merely seeing it externally, he was experiencing the and witnessing the divine event as well. So at this point, let us hear what Anandji will tell us about Sanjaya's vision of the Vishvarupa.
Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Before we come there, it's interesting that Madhuji pointed out that Sanjaya is the avatar of lead Gandharva. And if you look at Dhritarashtra, Dhritarashtra is also a Gandharva by name Gandharva. So it's coincidental that the lead Gandharva is narrating the whole Vishvarupa to another Gandharva. So let's move on to what Sanjaya was.
So Devalji has raised a hand, Anandji, very briefly. Devalji.
Sorry, just a point of clarification either of you can do. Does Dhritarashtra see what is happening or does he hear it from Sanjaya?
Dhritarashtra is being narrated by Sanjaya. Sanjaya is able to see, Sanjaya is able to hear. That's what Shashruti just said, clairvoyance and clairaudience. So that was a boon given to Sanjaya by Vedavyasa. And with that boon, he is now in Hastinapur. He is narrating to King Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra himself is not seeing.
Prakashji is raised.
Devalji, at only one point, Dhritarashtra did see, that was in the courtroom when Krishna visited the court to try and stop the war. He did see it, but not now.
Prakashji?
Okay. This Sanjaya, a lead Gandharva, is narrating Arjuna's vision. Arjuna is in the higher Kaksha. Now, how can Sanjaya see Arjuna's vision, who is of higher Kaksha?
So, if I may come in here, Sanjaya is narrating to his capacity. So we will come to this, Prakashji. We have a nice slide later comparing Sanjaya's vision and Arjuna's vision. But to answer your question, Sanjaya here is narrating his perception of Vishvarupa and also with the boon that he has. And within his capacity, he is trying to narrate what Arjuna is experiencing and what Arjuna is narrating there. So it is Sanjaya's perspective and within his capacity. Does that answer your question, Prakashji?
No, I understand that, but my question is, this is a Vishvarupa Darshana experienced by Arjuna, narrated by Sanjaya. We understand that there are different kakshas, and Sanjaya, what he understood, he said. My intention here is to expand this further and have a discussion on this little bit further, but you can do it later, not now. I don't want to interrupt.
But Vedavyasa, Krishna himself gave him the strength to see, isn't it? See and hear.
Yes,
Both
Sanjaya
his,
gets.
both his these are what is that? Both his powers are given by Vedavyasa. So why?
Exactly.
Because Vedavyasa is higher than Arjuna, no? As you
I
say,
think
I
we
mean,
will come to all
categories.
these issues when we discuss it further. So shall we just keep moving, Anandji?
Okay. So at this stage, what Sanjaya is informing King Dhritarashtra is Eva muktva tato rajan mahayogeshwaro harihi darshayamasa parthaya paramam rupam aishwaram. At this stage, is informing that Lord Hari, because he has used that word Hari there, Lord Hari accedes to Arjuna's request. And then he displays his magnificent, divine, opulent, universal form, which had multitudes of great attributes. Paramam Rupam Aishwar. So in describing this, Sanjay has used a couple of words here. Maha Yogeshwaro Hari. Maha Yogeshwara. So basically he's calling Lord Krishna's vision here, Lord Krishna, Vishnu, as Mahayogeshwara. Earlier when Sureshji did it, Arjuna called the Lord as just Yogeshwara. Now, Sanjaya uses that superlative here, the great Yogeshwara. It's basically to say here he is the Lord of Lords. He is the Supreme Lord. Paramam here means the opulences. His vision was like he had multitudes of attributes. Sanjay also calls him Harihi. Harihi has a number of meanings. Harihi means Harita. Harita means the one who pervades all. Omnipresent, also omnipotent. Harihi also means Harati, the one who removes all ignorances. Harihi also means the Lord who consumes all sacrifices offered, the havis. This especially comes in Moksha Dharma and also in Bhagavad Gita. We have seen that aham hi sarva yajnanam bhukta cha prabhureva cha natupam abhijanati tatvenanti chavantite. In the 9th chapter this has come. So Harihi has number of meanings, and the last couple of meanings are the one who sustains the universe is also called Hari. And Sureshji, if you remember, I asked you this thing because color of Sri Hari is of green hue. And this green hue is a prakruta. It's not the material color. And that's why I was interested in knowing, once you said those 4 forms of Lord and the 5th form, Hari himself, he says it's a green hue and it is a prakruta. So Mahayogeshwara is the Yogeshwara of yogis, which is if you look at Sahasranama, Vishnu Sahasranama, it says Yoga Vidam Neta, Pradhana Purusheshwara. So a number of meanings are there, and now what Sanjay does is he starts to narrate to the king what he saw there in that Vishvarupa, what all he saw in that Vishvarupa. Aneka Vaktranayam, Aneka Adbhuta Darshanam, Aneka Divyabharanam, Divyaneko Dhyatayudam, Divya Malambaradharam, Divya Gandhanulepanam, Sarvascharyamayam Devam, Anantam Vishvatomukam. He's just trying to narrate what he is visualizing there. In these 2 shlokas, he has used 2 important words, Aneka and Ananta here. Aneka, Eka means one. Aneka means not one. So what it could be? What could it be? 2, 3, 4, many, innumerable. I think in this context, it's countless. It's innumerable. You can't give a number here. Because he's saying there, Aneka Vaktranayanam, countless faces, countless eyes, countless mouths, countless shapes, countless colors, countless forms. All that 18 Akshauhini Sena there, in everywhere he is saying this number of eyes, number of faces. Adbhuta darshanam. Adbhuta darshanam is something which he has not seen before. Amazing, awesome. Probably even those words are not enough to justify this. Sanjay here is feeling that this is such an Adbhuta darshana that one has to witness it. And he is also using Anantam here. Anantam is unlimited. He was seeing unlimited aspects, multitudes of ornaments and weapons. Divya Malambharadaram, Divya Ayudham, and then divine garlands, divine clothes, divine Gandhanulepanam, infinite attributes. He also says there, Divya. Divya here is a very important word because it has been used so many times here. Divya, if you look at what Madhuji has taught us, Divya for Divyam, Madhuji told us about 7 meanings there. Divya means Divi Divukridayam, Divi Vijigishayam, Divi Divu Vyavahare, Divi Dhyuti, Divi Stuti, Divu Kanti, Divu Gati. 7 meanings were there. Here, Divya, because the Lord hasn't put up this form with a great effort here. It was just instantaneous to show Arjuna, look, it was like a sport for him. Divu Kridaya. Divu Dhyuti. Divu Dhyuti means it's Divu Dhyuti is light. Light is knowledge. Look at that radiance, that effulgence of the Lord. It can also be perceived as Divu Kanti here. So that Divya meaning, there are a number of meanings for Divya here. I thought 1 or 2 of those are very much applicable to how it has been used here. And then you'll see that Vishvato Mukham, Sarvascharyamayam Devam, Anantam Vishvato Mukham, Anantam Vishvato Mukham. So it was in all directions, in all worlds, in all times, beyond space and time. Chapter 13-14 says, Sarvatah Panipadam Tat Sarvato Shiror Shiromukham Sarvata Shrutimalloke Sarvam Avritya Tishtati. Sarvata Panipadam. His feet were everywhere, his hands were everywhere. Sarvato Akshi, his eyes were everywhere. Shiro and Mukham, his head and his face were everywhere. Shruti, his ears were everywhere. Sarvata Shruti Malloke, and he was pervading everywhere. Vishvato Mukham, that shows the description of this Vishvarupa here as experienced by Sanjay. Is also used there a word called Sarvascharyamayam Devam. Sarvascharyamayam. It is not only amazing, awesome, it's just an embodiment of all marvels of all the worlds. I was looking at Acharya's Bhashya and he uses something called Mayat, and I didn't understand. I have requested Madhuji to comment here. Madhuji, if you can, please.
Yeah, sure. Swamiji, Mayat Pratyaya. So we see this Mayat coming in various Upanishads, right? So in Taittiriya Upanishad, for example, you say Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya. So there is Maya there. And then if you go to Chandogya Upanishad, 6th chapter, Ekena Mritpundena Sarvam Mrinmayam Vijnatam Syat, Ekena Nakanikrintena Sarvam Karshnayasam Vijnatam Syat. So it is Mayam there. So there is that Maya. Then there is in everywhere in the Upanishad, they say this Paramatma is Jnananandamaya. So there are different Upanishads, you have this Maya comes in So what is it, Maya? How do we have to understand in what context? So prakarana is always important, right? So we can't, that mayat has to have different meanings. So this is called mayat pratyaya. So the mayat has got different meanings that you have to use in specific context. So what are the three meanings? There are three meanings for mayat pratyaya. One is prachurya, vikara, tad atmya. Okay, prachurya means abundance. So when I say pranamaya or vijnanamaya, abundance of consciousness, abundance of knowledge, that kind of stuff. Okay, so next one is viskara, transformation. So mritpinda, mrinmayam, so one clod of clay, everything made of clay. So that kind of transformation idea. And then Jnananandamaya tad atmyam. So it is its own quality. Yeah. So you have to take that in context as to what's happening. So Srimad Acharya is very, very careful and very clear in bringing this in the interpretation. He'll say, like here, when the word Maya is used, Maya Pratyaya is tadatmya, which means that it is his own Swarupa. So that is what the Mayat there means, but we'll have to use it in different contexts as you have to see Upakrama, Upasamhara, and all the way at beginning, end, and then understand it. Over to you, Anand.
Thank you very much, Madhuji. Sarvascharyamayam. So it was a marvel, and this we have used this Ascharya Shabda. We have come across this in second chapter. Yes, Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidedam, Ascharyavat vadati tadhaiva chanyaha, Ascharyavat chainam anya shrunoti, Shrutvapenam veda na chaiva kaschanas. When we were talking about the Lord in the early part of the second chapter, it says, we see Lord as amazing. Some see as amazing, some hear as amazing, some describe as amazing, while others, even after having heard all that, they still don't understand. So that was the Ascharya which came in the second chapter. So here, Sanjaya, he is seeing that the entire universe exists within him. All aspects are one and same. We said that earlier, Te Rupam and Rupani. All aspects are one and the same. All are divine, divyam. They are aprakrita, jnananandamaya, swarupa bhuta. And it was divukridayam, krida rupa. So after having this, perceiving this vision, Sanjaya now tries to compare this vision to something which is within his capacity. He tries to compare this vision to thousands of suns. Divisurya sahasrasya bhavet yugapatuthita yadi bha sadrishi sasyas bhasastasya mahatmana. So Sanjay is comparing here this vision to as if thousands and thousands of sun were to raise simultaneously in the daytime in the sky, that dazzling radiance could probably be comparable to this Vishvarupa radiance. He's not saying it's beyond comparison. So he's using that simile of thousands of suns to explain that splendor of the cosmic form, but nowhere it had any parallels. Yadi bha, that prakasha, sadrishi sasyat bhasastasya bhatma. Probably, because when you want to compare something, you have to give an example. So probably Sanjaya is looking at thousands of suns and trying to compare that, but even that would not have any parallels to what he was witnessing, this splendor. One question which came during our discussion was why did we take sun as an example here? Could we not have compared with any other radiance? So having said that, to compare, we should be aware of what is the most luminous object for humans, and for us, it is the form of sun. And in fact, in many chapters, in many shlokas, Lord himself has talked about sun. And he says in 10:21, Jyotisham Raviram Shuman, amongst the luminous objects, I am the sun. It doesn't mean that he's that sun which we are witnessing. His radiance is far apart from what we witness. In chapter 15, which we are doing nowadays, Natad Bhasayate Suryaha, Na Shashanko Na Pavakaha. He says in his abode, the radiance of sun, the radiance of moon does not work at all, because he himself is self-effulgent. He also says, Yadadityagatam tejaha, the tejas of Aditya, the tejas of sun, Yat Chandramasi, the tejas of moon, Yat Chagna, the tejas of Agni, they're all because of Lord. And there's one more also. In 7th chapter, Rasoham Apsa Kaunteya, Prabhasmi Shashi Surya Yoho. The light of sun, the light of moon is because of me. So we have heard about this sort of a comparison, but here Sanjay probably brings everything together and says, this was like as if thousands of suns were to raise, and probably the effulgence may be comparable to that. Here I put a little picture here because we spoke a lot about aparoksha jnana and Vishvarupa darshana. So when Madhuji very nicely mentioned in that little table, when we have aparoksha jnana, it's an internal realization. It's a unique form which is unique to soul. It's very intimate and personal. It's also a splendor, but it is like a flash. It's like a flash. It's not as much as Sanjay was witnessing here or Arjuna was witnessing here. So with that, I hand over to Sushrutji. Sushrutji, back to you.
Thank you, Anandji. Wonderful slides. So moving on, in the beginning, Arjuna had addressed Krishna as Yogeshwara, and now Sanjay calls him Maha Yogeshwara. So why has he added this Maha to the Yogeshwara? So I'll just go through for brevity. In my reading, we came up as the yogis are at the human level, and then the devatas up to the level of Indra are called yogeshas. The level above Indra, so Rudra, Shesha, and Rujus, they are called Yogeshwaras. And then there is only one above them all, which is Mahavishnu, and hence he is called Maha Yogeshwara. So from the Tattvabada school of philosophy, this is very significant because we know that Lord Vishnu alone is Swatantra, absolutely independent, and he has infinite attributes of knowledge and bliss. He is completely above all human beings and all other beings. He is supreme, and he is the supreme controller of all things in this universe. And hence this title of Maha Yogeshwara, which is most apt for him. So when all the souls and the universe are eternally dependent on him, this title fits him the best. Krishna is revealing his Vishvarupa. This is no illusion. He is revealing his true cosmic sovereignty here. This brings us to the next question on, is God formless? You know, this is description of thousands of faces, thousands of eyes, divine weapons, divine garlands. Is this all imaginary or is this real? I mean, is Lord Nirguna or formless as some claim? So I'm going to request Madhuji to enlighten us on this, please.
Sure, Sushruji. I think it's a bigger question, Vishwarupa Darshana Yoga. So for some schools of Vedanta, actually 11th chapter is hugely problematic, okay, of Vishwarupa Darshana. What on earth is this Vishwarupa Darshana? So maybe we take it from that level and then home in into the God formless or not. So is Vishwarupa Darshana real or an imaginary, some kind of a delusional hallucination, if you want to call it, that happened to Arjuna when he was in a great distress? So one school of Vedanta, the monastic friends, they don't accept Vishwarupa as actually the form of Narayan, or actually the form of Lord. They do not accept that this is actually, Vishwarupa is not Nirguna Brahman. Okay? If some of us don't appreciate it, that is a fact. Okay? So Vishwarupa is not Nirguna Brahman. So then the question is, who is this Vishwarupa that is being shown to Sanjaya then? Okay, so our monastic friends have said this is Maya Upadhi. Okay, it's a Maya, it's an illusion. Yeah, it is some kind of a material transformation that Arjuna had that vision. Okay, so Shankaracharya themselves doesn't go on to elaborate this, but his commentators, Anandagiri, Nilakanta, there is one guy in monastic school called Vamana Pandita, not our Vamana Pandita Acharya, there is another Vamana Pandita. So these three commentators have discussed this in great detail as to what this Vishwarupa actually is, and their conclusion is this is Maya, this is an illusion, it is some kind of a prakritic transformation that our friend Arjuna had. Okay, so that is their position and it is their problem. The issue with that is the verses within the Gita themselves doesn't point to that kind of a view. Yeah, so they should actually look at the verses much more carefully and understand the Sanskrit there. Okay, that is not, it's a divyam. Okay, paramam. There are all those words both before the verses that you have discussed and the verses after. So it is problematic to say that Vishwarupa is an illusion. Okay, but that is the monastic view, whether we like it or not, it is out there. Okay, then you have the Vishishtadvaita view about this Vishvarupa. Okay, so this Vishvarupa is, so the Vishishtadvaita view is this whole universe is the body of Brahman. Okay, this whole universe is the body of Brahman, and the whole universe of matter and souls is the body of Brahman, and he is the soul of this body. Okay, so this Vishwarupa Darshana perhaps may be alluding to that kind of a concept of Vishwarupa. And then there is, of course, the Tattvavada, where our Srimad Acharya has said this Vishwarupa is totally non-material. It is aprakrita. Okay, it is completely an aprakrita form that Arjuna saw. Is categorically our Acharya establishes, not with his own, mastaka. Our Acharya always is pustaka. So he gives a number of reference, but actually he gives a reference internally within this chapter itself to say that this is a non-material form. As I said, divyam, paramam, drishtum, and all those internal evidences. Acharya then says, this is actually a non-material form of the Paramatma, because our Arjuna asked that he wants to see that. So he said, I will give you Divya Darshana. So there is the answer. Our monastic friends are in a very tricky wicket there. I know IPL is going on at this point. Very, very tricky wicket, because he said Divyam. I'll give you Divya Darshana at this point. Why do you need a Divyam eyes if you want to see something that's a modification of material stuff? If it is a modification of material stuff and a Maya, you don't need material eyes. Yeah. So the Divyam, the eyes he is giving itself is an answer for that. So our Acharya's view is very clear that this is a non-material form. Then, of course, Shushuji asks, then is this, if so, then you are giving me various forms of this stuff, but how can you give forms to Paramatma? Is God formless or has he got a form? So that is a very important question for us, because this is the question that is being thrown at us by the Abrahamic schools of thought. Yeah, and I can understand why they come with that particular view, because we have to actually give them the right perspective in which we are approaching this. For God's sake, Sanatana Dharma does not propagate idolatry. Veda Vyasa said, na pratike nahi saha. We are not looking at these material images and saying this is the form of God. Okay, absolutely not. So the answer to that, okay, so before we go to that, of course, we have the Dayanand Saraswati, who has said, sky is all pervasive. If something is all pervasive, how can it have a form? Similarly, God is all pervasive, hence he does not have a form. Okay, so that is the view of the Arya Samaj, okay, from propagated by Dayanand Saraswati in the 16th, 17th century. Okay, so we have to be very careful with regards to how we look at that. So our gurus, particularly of modern times like Bandanji and others, have told us again and again to be very clear in our mind as to how we address this problem. The first question we have to ask is, yes, okay, sky is all pervasive. How can something that is all pervasive can have a form? We agree that. But the next question should be, is sky sentient or non-sentient? Is it jada or it is sentient? Sky is a jada. Okay. Is it omnipotent? Sky is not omnipotent. Whereas our Lord, who is all pervasive, is also omnipotent. So for the same school, certain other schools which say that they cannot accept God as God, they view only God as formless. We'll have to ask them, is your formless God omnipotent? Okay. If they say yes, we'll say, yes, we agree with you. Our Lord is also omnipotent. So if an omnipotent Lord does not assume, is not capable of assuming a form, then it limits his omnipotence. Our view is God is omnipotent and he has the capacity to take forms. The question you should be asking is, why does the Lord decides to take the forms, various forms? He desires to take the forms out of mercy to the souls that are limited, and they need something. You and me, we need something to progress in life. It is because we are limited beings. He assumes a form which is non-different from his infinite form to give us a grasp of his greatness. Okay, so it is Lord's omnipotence that he is able to show the Vishvarupa dharshana. And as you know, in this chapter, again, then Arjuna says, no, I don't want to see Vishvarupa darshana. Show me your four-armed form, then show me your nice form, and so on. He says, so God is formless in the sense he does not have material form. But God is of infinite forms for infinite souls, that is non-material. So coming back to this, Vishvarupa darshana is categorically non-material. Okay, it is a non-material form, and to see that non-material form, Arjuna was given a divine eyes to see the non-material form. For God's sake, it is not a Maya Upadhi form as discussed in certain schools. We have to go to internal evidence there rather than capturing and understanding a airy-fairy concept. It is not a hallucination. It is not an illusion. It is a real thing which is non-material, is the Vishwarupa Darshana. So I'll stop there. Thank you very much, Anandji. Prakashji has got a
Yeah.
question.
Actually, interestingly, the Shankara Bhashya is talking about all these things as aprakritani divyanin. They have put it there in Shankara Bhashya. So that is also an interesting point to note. I'll just read the first line alone and then I don't want to take much of your time. Pashame mama partha rupani satashaha ata sahasrashaha anekasha iti arthaha तानि च नानाविधानि अनेक प्रकाराणि दिवि भवानि दिव्यानि अप्राकृतानि नानावर्णाकृतानि च नाना विलक्षण नीलपीतादि प्रकारा वर्णतः. He has given in Shankara Bhashya also. That's a very interesting thing to pick it up for our discussion.
Yeah, very interesting, Prakashji. But then what that aprakritani is, you'll have to ask them. What is the meaning of aprakrita that they have said? Vyavaharika aprakrita, possible, Prakashji? So, yeah.
Thank you, Madhuji. I mean, from my understanding, the Lord pervades every aspect of this universe. So it says, Tat Srishtva Tadeva Anupravishata. So he is in all the different objects in this universe. So he is enabling those objects to take different forms as well. So, and we see so many beautiful things in the world, and they remind me of the Dwadasha Stotra, Bahuchitra Jagat Bahuda Karanat uh, uh, Parashakti Ananta Guna Paramam. So he has infinite powers to make this world beautiful, and he appears in various forms for us to be able to contemplate upon the Lord. So if we move on to the next question that is troubling us, is this is describing as Ananta Rupas, infinity. Is the human mind truly capable of grasping this sort of infinity that is being described?
Sure, Shishiji. I will share my thoughts and we'll also get others to nip in here. Can human mind truly grasp infinity? Absolutely not. But we can grasp the concept of infinity. So we can say, okay, there must be something which is called infinity out there. So human beings can grasp that concept of infinity. But then never forget the Taittiriya Upanishad, Yato Vacho Nivartante Aprapya Manasasaha. Then the very next verse is Anandam Brahmano Vidwan. Okay, it says if you can't know him, but then why should Taittiriya Upanishad say Anandam Brahmano Vidwan, know him as Ananda? Okay, so the reconciliation there is that you can not know him fully. You can only know him as per your capacity. And our Srimad Acharya is very nicely given. Pashyanto api na pashyanti mero rupam vipashtitaha. Just like you go and touch the Meru mountain, you get a knowledge of the Meru mountain. That doesn't mean you are able to hug the Meru mountain. You can touch as per your capacity and then you can know that. So, in that sense, we can know as per our capacity, but having the view that he is infinite, I can only know something about him. And again, our Veda Vyasa has said there are only four things that Manushyottamas can know about Paramatma. Okay, Sat, Chit, Ananda, Atma. These are the four things. If we know these four things, then we have won the game here. And there are other big beings like devatas. They may know different other aspects that we may not even be capable. Only four we can know. And even our Rudra, Keneshitam Patati Preshitamana, we have discussed this so much in Kena Upanishad. Even our Rudra, who is the Mano Abhimani, cannot know him fully. So what about us? So yes, human mind cannot grasp infinity, but we can understand the concept of infinity. And as long as we understand he is infinite, but I am so small, but I can understand something about him, again by his grace only, then we have a chance of winning this T20 game. Yeah, that is out there. I'll open it for others.
So, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
So the question is, we are talking about Ananta and Santa and so on. And so how did Srimad Acharya see it? Because he's Ruji Yogi, he's seeing him all the time. And so I think Anandji or Sushruti mentioned Dwadasha Stotra. So in that, they explain Anantam Antavattiva Bhujayor Antarangatam. So they are describing, after the Uru, they are describing the chest of Bhagavan. Srimad Acharya is. So he says the chest of the Bhagavan is Anantam. Antavattiva Bhujayor Antarangadam. So the infinite chest feels finite because his arms are around, because the arms are also infinite. So it is a very, very interesting way that the Acharya has described for a normal mind what the Ruji Yogi is seeing constantly. So it's a very, you have the Upanishad Bhashyas, yes, but then there is a Ruji Yogi testimony about how the Acharya is actually seeing in the first adhyaya of Dwadasha Stotra, which is very sort of like electrifying actually.
Amazing, thank you. So as human beings, of course, our intellect is limited by time, space, and individuality and our own capacity. And this Vishvarupa is obviously transcending all these boundaries. So it is difficult for us to grasp what this Vishvarupa was. So let us move on to the next verse, Anandji.
Sure. So Sanjaya is now beginning to describe what Arjuna perceived and what were the manifestations of Arjuna when he saw this splendor, when he saw this Vishvarupa fall. So the shloka says, Tatraikastham Jagat Krishnam Prabhibhaktam Anekadha Apashyad Deva Devasya Sharire Pandavastatha. Tatraikastham, in that one place, or in the mere fraction of the body of Supreme Lord, Sharire Deva Devasya, Arjun could see the totality of the entire universe. He saw the totality of the existence in Sri Krishna's body. And what did he see? He saw Anekada, the Pravibhaktam Anekada. He saw many, many manifold divisions. Vibhaktam is Vibhaga. Divisions of galaxies, divisions of planetary systems in that fraction of the Supreme Lord, in that body of the Supreme Lord. He beheld the entire creation of infinite universes. He could see Devatas, he could see Danavas, he could see human beings in different groups. In a sense, Arjun saw the whole world in one place, Tatraikastham. In this shlok, there is another word which has been used, Pandava. So we've been having these meanings. Sureshji dealt upon Partha and then Gudakesha and Bharata. Now we hear this about Pandava. Pandava in essence means son of Pandav. But Pandava, I believe, also means Sattvika Guna, white color. So Pandava Arjuna was a Satvik and he had the clean mind. His mind was clean. That's why he could grasp whatever little to his capacity, that supreme vision. So he looks at this splendor of Vishvarupa and then he begins to manifest a number of emotional and psychological responses. Tatassa vismayavishto hrittaroma dhananjaya pranamya shirasa devam krutanjalarabhashata. He starts looking at that form. He starts trembling. His hair stands on the end. His tears fill his eyes. His voice chokes. He bows down in reverence. Pranamya shirasa devam. He folds his hands. He becomes overwhelmed with the devotion to the extent that he has these paroxysms of delight and deep reverence, and which evoked all these manifestations, evoked that bhakti. When you see something amazing like that, these are some of the manifestations which do happen, and probably we might all relate to our experiences. So he bows down, he does namaskara, and then he starts explaining what he perceived about Lord in the next 17 verses. Once again here, a word Dhananjaya has been used. We all know that he was a great economist. Arjuna used to bring riches to his king. But here he was the real Dhananjaya, because what else can be more richer than witnessing this Vishvarupa? That Rupa, that Vishvarupa itself was the biggest of the biggest riches. Probably that word Dhananjaya suits here extremely well.
So, Anandji, if
Yeah.
we may kindly request you to go back to the previous verse, and you said our own experiences. So here it reminds me, for us as this terrible, nasty fellows who are there in this world at this point of time, we claim to have sadhana sharira and all that. So the only experience that I can, from my own personal experience, this is because you said personal experience, I can quote my personal experience with deep sense of humility and honesty here is, some of us remember when we were there in Udupi last year. Okay, when we were in Udupi last year, when we had the unique privilege of actually being inside the sanctum sanctorium with the Udupi Krishna and the Swamiji doing the Mangalarati there, sitting there and doing, and we had this privilege of actually sitting 2 feet away from Udupi Krishna. Okay, so that experience, probably from in my own lifetime, my own experience, is probably the closest I will ever get with that kind of a similar experience. The other one, of course, is which will be more popular is when we go to Tirupati. Okay. Forget about all these endless queues and you pay this money, you have this passport, you will go there first, and all that nonsense that goes on there. But once you get into that place, yeah, once you get into the sanctum sanctorium, then you become different. Yeah, so that kind of emotion sets in at that point. So those are the two instances that I can actually relate personally myself as to how it would have been for Arjuna or Sanjaya. But for us, in a very, very basic, mundane self, maybe that is probably the closest we would get. And I don't know if anybody else wants to share their thoughts here. And anyway, I wanted to share that. Yeah.
Thank you, Madhuji. Yes, we were there. It was an amazing experience, and you cannot describe that in words. So yes. So if we move on to the next slide, please. So we now look at the spiritual psychology of Arjuna. So Anandji has already described the symptoms of ecstatic devotion that Arjuna is going through. His hair is standing on end, he's got tears, he's trembling, his voice is choked, he is in utter awe, there is stunned silence. And this really means that his warrior ego has gone, and there is a new Arjuna, a devotee, is emerging from this scene. And this is what this Vishvarupa is telling us, this true knowledge of the supremacy of the Lord, that we are completely dependent on him, and there Arjuna becomes nimitta matram. The devotion has to be rooted in humility. We have to surrender to the Lord. So this Vishwarupa is destroying all the pride, the arrogance, the false independence that one has, and it is awakening this devotion, reverence, surrender, and spiritual clarity, which is going to lead us into chapter 12. That is the whole purpose of this Vishwarupa as I understand it. Otherwise, why will it be there in Bhagavad Gita? It is meant to take us down the path of bhakti, and this is what it has uh, stimulated in Arjuna, is my understanding. And I'm happy for any one of the panel to step in at this point, please.
So, namaskara, sir. It's when you think about it, like, for example, if you go to the first chapter where he starts with Sidanti mamagatrani mukhancha parishishyati vebhitascha sharire me romaharshascha jayate gandivam sramsate hastat tvakshaiva paridahyate nacha shaknomi avasthatum bhramativa cha me manaha nimittani cha pashyami. So it seems like Arjuna, as great a warrior as he is sort of like prone to these horripilations and the extreme emotions. And at that time, I think when I was doing that, I was asking Devalji to comment a little bit on these situations that human beings go through. The situation of a panic attack or a situation of an extreme adventure, like what Madhuji is saying, being able to be very close to Sri Krishna, or when you do the Srivani Darshana at Tirupati, where you go all the way to Kulshekhar Padi, and then you look at the form of Krishna, of Venkateshwara there. You don't know whether you need to look at the face or the hands. So then many shlokas later, Arjuna will say, I'm too overwhelmed. Tenaiva rupena chaturbhujena. I want to go back to these kinds of things. So I think these issues of overwhelmingness sometimes occur in the samsara and sometimes occur with divya rupa darshana. And I think we need to be able to understand our emotions very correctly, that this is a positive horripilation versus there is one very interesting thing that I think all of us can relate to, is when Narasimha was extremely agitated after killing Hiranyakashipu, they sent Prahlada to him. And Narasimha said, everyone is afraid to come to me, Prahlada, but aren't you afraid? And then Prahlada Maharaja, he said, look, I'm afraid of you, but I'm afraid of samsara even more than I'm afraid of seeing you. So I think there is this, like what Anandji was saying, the taratamya of horripilation, which is this Roma Harshana. I think we need to sort of like clearly understand which one is a Roma Harshana that is a worrisome Roma Harshana that we should eliminate, and which one is a Roma Harshana, Ananda Bhashpa, and trembling, all the features that you have described, which we should experience and then sort of like treasure. So that was one of the comments that I was trying to say.
I think we'll come to that in
exactly. That links very well to our next slide, Venkaji. Probably we'll get Vidyavalji also to comment on that. Okay.
So yes, Venkaji mentioned chapter 1, where Arjuna is in deep despair because the world is so painful, and he describes Romaharsha there too. And here he is in ecstasy, and he is getting Romaharsha in chapter 11. So what is the difference between these two pictures? Is the psychology of Arjuna. In Devalji, do you want to come in at all? maybe she's busy. It's okay. So Arjuna is breaking down in chapter 11 here in Vishvarupa because of a different reason. In chapter 1, the world is too painful. He is afraid of fighting with his own teacher, his own granduncle, to fight with his own relatives. Uh, Whereas in chapter 11, he is breaking down because the reality is too vast. He just cannot perceive the end. Na anto na chade. He just does not know where it is beginning, where it is ending. In chapter 1, he is in an existential crisis. He does not know what is going to happen to him. Whereas in chapter 11, he is getting a mystical revelation. It is just magical for him. In chapter 1, he is in an ego state. He is talking about Ratham Stapaya Mechata. He is talking about my relatives, my Kandiva. He's all about me. Whereas in chapter 11, that has gone. He realizes how insignificant he is in this cosmic order when he sees this Vishvarupa, and that has completely overwhelmed him. So I think that really brings out the differences between the Arjuna at the beginning in chapter 1 and the stage that he has reached now.
Maybe you should bring in Devalji if she's here, or any psychiatrist or anybody who understand the emotions.
My audio wasn't working. So apologies. I don't I don't know. I think we are trying. The experience that is described is a material. I'm trying to think from a biological point of view. The experience of hair standing on end or whatever is a reaction which is a material thing which is experienced because of adrenaline or whatever hormones that are being released in that instant. So it doesn't matter what he's experiencing. That is how the body will react, is how I'm thinking about it. And that, I mean, in loosely termed, that is how we define a stress and a stressor, isn't it? So something happening is not stressful. How you react is the stress, actually. I mean, even in physics, it would be the same sort of principle. So the emotional state that he is feeling, I don't know. It is difficult to say that it is not. I don't know. Is the question that it is pleasurable? Is that the question, isn't it? I think it would be an individual experience. My take on it is that it is so opulent and incomprehensible that it is difficult to take in. So he describes scariness. The text describes scariness. Yeah.
Srikanchi has his hand raised.
Srikanji.
Jai Sri Krishna. Namaskar ellargu. My reaction to this slide is, or to the slide, to the entire Bhagavad Gita here, as succinctly put together by you people, is what a transformation. What a transformation. From chapter 1, you have a broken down fellow who says, I want to run away, I want to do this, I want to do that, but fight. And look at his elevation in chapter 11, from raised from wherever he was to where he is, to be in the presence of glory. What a transformation, what a promotion that anybody can aspire for. And Arjuna truly is blessed. That was my takeaway. I'm no psychiatrist, but just from an emotional bhakti eyes. Thank you.
So, very nice. So, Venkiji was.
Can I ask a question here?
Yeah.
I mean, even at this point, Arjuna is not really convinced that he needs to fight the war. Right up to the 18th chapter, one of the verses that was mentioned earlier in today's talk, he's still saying, now I know everything. and now I will, I will do as you say. So he's still like seeking permission. So that is the bit I have never quite understood. Is just
Yeah.
something we can think about.
Yeah. So, Madhuji, if I have to comment on that, that's an extremely great observation. So, this is what, can you hear me? So, this is what I struggled with. And this is how I resolved it. And maybe other people will resolve it in different ways. So, we say that you need to have aparoksha jnana to see Vishvarupa. And then we say Duryodhana saw Vishvarupa. So then, did Duryodhana have an aproksha of some kind for him to have seen Vishvarupa? Kali, he is Kamsa. Did he have, right? And so my thought is people have different approkshas of their variety. So even like, for example, Arjuna is a devata who is having Vishvarupa. Then subsequent to the Vishvarupa, there has to be what we are calling grace. The Lord's prasada has to happen for him to get whatever it is, the knowledge that he has get to be transformed into action. So in other words, the knowledge on its own, when you combine it with sneha, becomes bhakti. With the knowledge on its own, when you combine it with dvesha, becomes the aproksha of Duryodhana or somebody like that. So what we are trying to say here, I think, is the aparoksha, which means the jnana of the Lord. Kali probably has a lot of jnana of the Lord, but the jnana of the Lord is consumed with the hatred and the divisiveness that he encounters. The jnana of Arjuna is culminated in additional affection and sneha, like what we describe bhakti as Mahatma Jnana Purvastu Sneha Bhakti. Sneha is what contributes towards the bhakti. The aproksha jnana, everyone has to have some sort of an epiphany or theophany, like what we call, of our own. So I think after the Vishwarupa, it still takes a bunch of instruction of the Lord to shower his blessing on him. The prasada has to be from the Lord himself. And so I think that prasada happens to the full culmination on the 18th adhyaya when he says Nashto Moha Smritir Labdha. And then the Lord immediately ends the instruction right away. So I think there is a jnana, Devalji, and then post jnana, there is a little bit of what is it called? Contemplation of the jnana mixed with the sneha, and then inviting Bhagavad Prasada in it. So that's the reason why immediately after aproksha you don't get moksha. So immediately after aproksha you don't culminate into the correct action and things like that. So there is a slight time delay is what I am thinking. So I was thinking about it, and that was the conclusion that I came up with.
Yeah.
Thank you, Venkiji.
So on that related note, Venkiji, then the question, maybe if Shushuji will permit me to just pick this up as to who actually had Vishwarupa Darshana in that battlefield. Was it just Krishna alone? Was it just Arjuna alone? Or, Sanjaya alone had it? Or so many did others also have Vishwarupa Darshana? Do we ever have a chance of a Vishwarupa Darshana? I think we reconciled that last week, saying that unfortunately, mundane souls don't. Maybe once they go to Vaikunta, they will have some kind of a Vishwarupa Darshana. Until then, it's not going to happen to us. But the idea of 11th chapter is, of course, I felt Krishna would not have gone to chapter 11 unless if Arjuna had not asked for it. Arjuna said, I want to see. If he had not asked for it, he would have just kept quiet. So, yeah, so it's only Arjuna who asked for the Vishwarupa Darshana. And the view there is who all also saw Vishwarupa Darshana is also important. As you said, Duryodhana saw this in the court. And then in the battlefield also, some of them saw. There is a difference of views here, who saw it and who did not see it. So Sushuji, maybe if you have a few more slides to discuss, we can pick it up later as to who actually saw it and who didn't, and what is it that they saw.
Okay, sure.
So,
I mean,
later,
yeah,
go
sorry.
ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I mean, you can also say that Krishna made Arjuna ask him because ultimately he's the controller. He wants to do it, so he made Arjuna as the nimitta matram to ask that question. I want to see, so I will show you.
Yeah, and there is one other thing, Devalji, I thought is about this emotional responses, the physiological responses that you have with major emotional things. So in chapter 2, Krishna said, Matra sprashastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkadaha agamapayino anityaha tam tidikshasva bharata. He said, is it because of just mere contact? No. It is your abhimana, it is your attachment to these things that brings about the emotions that you are having. Okay. That was in the second chapter. But here, there is a different kind of thing happening where that abhimana is what is giving him all these reactions here. That he is actually having that undue, uncontrollable abhimana towards that Vishvarupa Darshana and Paramatma, having understood his omnipotence, omnipresence, and his our dependence and so on. That asanga that is there in chapter 15, which we are going to recite, comes very beautifully here, I feel. So that asanga shastrena dridena chitva, to go for it. But asanga, you have to have that sanga to Paramatma, which is what this Vishwarupa Darshana is. So that transformation that Srikanji was talking about in two different aspects also comes out very well. And that last point I was going to say is, Venkiji said why this fellow is so emotionally very labile. Why is Indra so emotionally labile? He's always crying or hair on end and whatever else. But the probable reason for that is, let's not forget that our Arjuna is Indra. Indra is the Indriya Abhimani Devata. So this fellow is Abhimani of all the Indriyas. So that is why he is doing it, I feel.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madhuji. Shall we move on to the
Yeah, I
next
was only
slide?
trying to say that later Arjuna himself says, Lokatrayam Pravatitam Mahatman. All the three people in all the three lokas are looking at you and are scary.
Yeah.
So it comes later that Arjuna himself says, he sees that people in all the three lokas are looking at this Vishvarupa. So probably we'll discuss in sometime later. Yeah.
So the next slide will probably answer the question that Prakashji had raised in comparing the experiences of Sanjaya and Arjuna. Both have witnessed this Vishwarupa. And what is the distinction between these two? So, firstly, Arjuna is the direct recipient of divine revelation. Krishna himself has chosen him to view the Vishwarupa. He has been granted the divine chakshu. He has spiritually prepared him through the 10 chapters towards devotion and surrender. And Arjuna has truly been emotionally and spiritually transformed by this experience that he has undergone. So this is very crucial because Arjuna's vision has come through the direct grace of Krishna and his will and his personal revelation. On the other hand, Sanjay also has got divine vision because he has been given divine vision by Vedavyasa, who is also Lord Narayana himself. But he is at a lower level. He is a narrator rather than a participant. He's a witness. He is not actually participating in this dialogue. And he's kind of observing this remotely, whereas Arjuna is like face to face with Lord Krishna there. Arjuna is being emotionally affected by this whole event, whereas Sanjay is in devotion, but he's still pretty much composed. He's in awe with the Divya Malam Daradaram, Divya Adbhuta, the Ayudham, and all those things. But he's not like in the same state of mind as Arjuna is. So he's still like a commentator, whereas Arjuna is the player. So there is a little difference between the two. So that is the real experience, is that Arjuna is encountering, trembling, surrendering, worshipping, whereas Sanjay is narrating and describing what he is seeing. In terms of emotional and devotional intensity, we have seen Arjuna's response with the horripilation, tears, and folded hands. Whereas Sanjay is in kind of more a descriptive mode of what he is seeing. So that brings us to the Vedic perspective of hierarchy among souls. So we know that Taratamya is a major part of Tattvavada, and Arjuna is Indra's avatara, so he is rank 8. And as far as I know, Sanjaya is a Deva Gandharva, so he's ranked somewhere like 27th. So there is a fair amount of difference between the two in terms of their ability to perceive the Lord and their basic knowledge level. So Sanjay is blessed. He is blessed by Veda Vyasa. He is spiritually elevated, no doubt, but he's still a seer and a narrator and a transmitter. Whereas Arjuna is a much higher level. He's close to Krishna, and his eligibility for divine revelation far exceeds that of a Gandharva. And Arjuna is a seeker of truth. He is not merely seeking information. And that is why he has been taught the Bhagavad Gita by the Lord. Therein lies the difference between kind of information and realization. That is the crux of the matter. So, why did Krishna show the Vishvarupa to Arjun specifically is one question that always it comes up. So, does anyone from the panel want to answer that question? And I hope, Prakash ji, that slide did cover a little bit of what you wanted to raise.
Definitely, Sushruji. I mean, I was looking forward to that conversation, and you put it very succinctly. So we'll talk more about that. Thank you.
So, yeah, we got Srikanji coming up. Yeah, Srikanji, go for it.
Thank you, Madhuji. Very nicely put, Shivshuji, appreciated. But Madhuji alluded about 2 minutes ago that there were other people who were present on the battlefield, not as the reporter, but physically and present. But no word is said about them. One, of course, we know is Bhima as the Kapi Dwaja. Is present right there. And the other one is Barbarika, grandson of Bhima, who was promised by Krishna. He cut off his body but kept his head on some tall pole so he could witness the whole thing, get a GPS view, but just to stay out of the war, because that fellow was said, I can finish this whole thing in 30 seconds, go away. And Krishna said, no, you stay out of it because you're going to kill everybody. And we don't need that. So you stay out of it. So those two people saw it. And you also mentioned about Taratamya. Bhima is much higher in Taratamya than Arjuna. So basically, what is the quality of the darshana he had, and what is the quality of darshana Barbarika might have had, is my quandary and conundrum, which I would pose back to the esteemed panel. Thank you.
Super. I will put some thoughts and we'll get others also to get in and contribute. So Vishvarupa Darshana, why did Krishna show Vishvarupa Darshana to Arjuna specifically? Because he asked for it. If he had not asked for it, he would not have shown. That is one answer. He specifically asked for it. But then there is an internal evidence within this chapter that within the Vishvarupa Darshana itself, Arjuna saw that all these fellows in all the three lokas looking at him with awe and wonder and trembling, and everything else is described within the Vishvarupa Darshana. So the internal clue tells us that the others have seen the Vishvarupa. Okay, so what I did was I went back to all the three schools of Vedanta to see what are all these guys saying. What is Shankaracharya saying? What is Ramanujacharya saying? What is our Srimad Acharya view on this? The first thing I learned is Shankaracharya does not address this directly. Okay, about what did others saw and all that, because in that school the Vishvarupa Darshana itself is an illusion. So what is the point in discussing about what are the different types of illusions that folks saw? So maybe that is why that discussion didn't happen. But Ramanujacharya has a very interesting discussion on this point about Vishvarupa Darshana seen by others in that battlefield. So one was what Srikanji was mentioning. The other one is when the Mahabharata battle was going on, there were other devatas who were actually witnessing this. The devatas who were actually seeing this Mahabharata battle as it was going on. So Ramanujacharya says in his Bhashya that when Lord shed his grace on Arjuna and gave him the Vishvarupa Darshana, he also shed the grace on all the other devatas who were there, although not explicitly. And I think Venkiji was mentioning that in the WhatsApp discussions of thoughts, that there was this grace not explicitly mentioned, but implied grace that other devatas who had come there to witness the battle also had a divine vision of the Vishwarupa, all as per their Taratamya, whatever their capacity is. That is includes Brahma and Rudra and Yakshas and so Siddhas and all those things that are described in the Gita. So that is Ramanuja's view on this. Very interesting. And now Srimad Acharya has got two different views. One in Gita Bhashya, he takes a particular perspective, not different views, but different perspectives. So one is in Gita Bhashya, the other one is in Gita Tatparya. So he has that, he describes that in the Gita Tatparya, his view is very similar to what Ramanujacharya has said about other devatas having that grace and having that aparoksha, that Vishwarupa Darshana as per their capacity. And in Gita Bhashya, he alludes to the fact that Arjuna saw others trembling and all that is being described as a thought projection. So Devalji will find it very interesting as a thought projection is what Acharya has actually looked at that particular challenge. The thought projection of Arjuna as seeing how others would feel as trembling and hair on end and awesome as to how his experience is. Okay, that was one novel point that I saw in Acharya's Bhashya. The other question also is why should Lord shed the grace on other devatas who are there, and why should he make them see the Vishwarupa Darshana? So the intention as to why he made others to do the Vishwarupa Darshana is also settled by Acharya and also Ramanujacharya, is that the intention of the Lord there is to impress upon Arjuna how big a guy he is and how all the other devatas are also worshipping him or adoring him, like that, is to try and increase that knowledge about how amazing he is, that he sheds that. So that question is also settled by both Acharya and Ramanujacharya. So I thought that was really interesting looking at various schools. I'll stop there and we'll get others to come in. Venkiji?
So one thing that I think, by the way, yes, and that's what was the thought process, where there is an explicit mention of grace in case of Arjuna. In all of the other cases, it's implied. So in other words, nobody got anything without the Divya Drishti. In this Arjuna's case, he actually mentioned it. So you would have to think about it in the court and in all of the other places where he did Vishwarupa Darshana, like for Yashoda Devi. The grace was implicit. Here he made it explicit so that people can see, understand, follow that the grace is so essential. But one other thing for us to think about is, for those aligned with physics and things like that, is we commonly live in a world of three dimensions, right? X, Y, and Z in the space, and then T in time, where time is ever going forward and never going back. So there is like 3.5 dimensions, 4 dimensions that we are seeing. What if there are more dimensions than that we just don't know about? And now you get a piercing glance into a dimension where time is also one of the dimensions. Like if you are sitting on a top pole like Barbaraka that Shrikantji was saying, you see all the X, Y, and Z directions at the same time. What if there was a dimension where you could see the time also at the same exact time, quote unquote? Then that will be extremely disorienting for anyone. And it requires very, very high level of visual. It's kind of like ant, right? An ant is always on a like on a 2-dimensional plane. So if there is a paper, the ant is always walking only on the paper. The ant doesn't know about the Z dimension, the upward dimension. What if you could put an ant on the upward dimension and then see that all the places where you are roaming around can be simultaneously seen across the place? Something like that is what I think has happened, and they call it block universe. If you guys Google it, you'll get to see where the entire space and time is now visualized as a block. I don't even know how somebody could do it, which is what I think Arjuna and the other people are sort of like getting invited to view in real times. And it's real because our dimensions are just one part of that dimension. So it's something which is absolutely real, and it's something which is very difficult to visualize, And so the Lord is showing him something which is absolutely real and making him visualize it in with respect to the time dimension, right? I don't even know how to describe it, and that's the reason why I think the Divya Drishti, they describe the Divya Drishti as not another pair of eyes that have been given him. It is the contemplative eye that has been given to him, right? That's what the tikas make sure when he says divyam dadami te chakshuhu, it doesn't mean that a new eye has been transplanted. The contemplative eye has been given. So that's how I would think about it, that it is a completely unique view which is just extremely difficult to have. We don't even know how to describe it because it's a timeless view which is going through time. If you know what I mean. And that's basically what Arjuna is experiencing. But it's real. It's real. It's real. Not an imagination.
Thank you, Venkiji.
Thank you.
So I think in the interest of time, we will conclude now. So in summary, Arjuna, in this Vishvarupa, Arjuna has taught us the greatness of divine surrender, and Sanjaya is only describing the Vishvarupa. Arjuna is actually bowing down before it. So what we learn here is that the Gita is inviting us not merely to be spectators of spirituality, but actually participate and undergo some divine transformation. That's what I learned from this session. So moving forwards, Anandji, over to you.
We thought that will be the end of this session. I would like to conclude the version by Sanjaya and with this little prayer. Namostavanantaya sahasramurtaye sahasrapadakshi shirorubahve sahasranamne purushaya shashvate sahasrakoti dharane namah sahasrakoti dharane namah om namah iti. Krishnarpanamastu. Open for discussion.
So thank you very much, Anandji. So we've had overwhelming, staggering, breathtaking discussions, I think, already. So in the interest of time, as Sushilji was mentioning, maybe perhaps we should move on and do our Adhikamasa contemplation and close. So I was going to say thank you so much, Sushilji, Anandji. Amazing slides. Sureshji, I think he's jumped out of the call. So amazing slides again from Sureshji. And thank you, Venki ji, Srikant ji, Deval ji, and everybody else who actively participated in today's session. It's a complex chapter, and those who just want to skim through this, they are welcome to skim through it. But this is a complex chapter that we need to really dwell on it. So we'll take as long as it takes, and as long as Harivayu want us to do contemplation, we will do on this contemplation. So on that note, thank you very much, Anandji. So shall we move on to the recitation for chapter 15 and then close today's session?
Only recitation today because of the time. We thought we will do the questions maybe perhaps in the.
So Srikantji, your quiz questions were eagerly waiting. They're challenging questions, I think. So that'll be for the next Sunday, and we will get Kusumji to recite chapter 15, and then after that, Anandji, if you could close today's session by Omkara, and we'll move on. So over to you, Kusumji, and if you want to unmute and then recite chapter 15, please.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, thank you. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha Atha Panchadashodhyayah Purana Purushottama Yogaha Shri Bhagavanuvacha Urdhvamulamadash Ashwatham Prahuravyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedavit Adashchodvam Prastutastasya Shakhaha Gunapravriddha Vishaya Pravalaha अदश्च मूल्याननुसन्ततानि कर्मानुबन्धीनि मनुष्यलोके न रूपमस्येह तथोपलभ्यते नान्तो न चादिर्न च सम्प्रतिष्ठा अश्वत्थमेनं सुविरूढमूलम् असङ्गशस्त्रेण दृढेन चित्वा ततः परं तत्परिमार्गितव्यं यस्मिन् गता न निवर्तन्ति भूयः तमेव चाद्यं पुरुषं प्रपद्ये यतः प्रवृत्तिः प्रस्तुता पुराणी निर्मानमोहाजितसङ्गदोषाः अध्यात्मनित्या विनिवृत्तकामाः द्वन्द्वैर्विमुक्ताः सुखदुःखसङ्गैः गच्छन्त्यमूढा पदमव्ययं तत् न तद्भासयते सूर्यः न शशाङ्को न पावकः यद्गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम परमं मम ममैवांशो जीवलोके जीवभूतः सनातनः मनःषष्ठानीन्द्रियाणि प्रकृतिस्थानि कर्षति शरीरं यदवाप्नोति यच्चाप्युत्क्रामतीश्वरः गृहीत्वैतानि संयाति वायुर्गन्धानि वाशयात् श्रोत्रं चक्षुस्पर्शनं च रसनं घ्राणमेव च अधिष्ठाय मनश्चायं विषयानुपसेवते उत्क्रामन्तं स्थितं वापि भुञ्जानं वा गुणान्वितं विमूढानानुपश्यन्ति पश्यन्ति ज्ञानचक्षुषः यतन्तो योगिनश्चैनं पश्यन्त्यात्मन्यवस्थितं यतन्तोऽप्यकृतात्मानः नैनं पश्यन्त्यचेतसः यदादित्यगतं तेजः जगद्भासयतेऽखिलं यच्छन्द्रमसि यच्चाग्नौ तत्तेजो विद्धि मामकं गामाविश्य च भूतानि धारयाम्यहमोजसा पुष्णामि औषधिः सर्वाः सोमो भूत्वा रसात्मकः अहं वैश्वानरो भूत्वा प्राणिनां देहमाश्रितः प्राणापानसमायुक्तः पचाम्यन्नं चतुर्विधं सर्वस्य चाहं हृदि सन्निविष्टः मत्तः स्मृतिर्ज्ञानमपोहनं च वेदैश्च सर्वैरहमेव वेद्यः वेदान्तकृद्वेदविदेहश्चाहं द्वाविमौ पुरुषौ लोके क्षरश्चाक्षर एव च क्षरः सर्वाणि भूतानि कूटस्थोऽक्षर उच्यते उत्तमः पुरुषस्थन्यः परमात्मेत्युदाहृतः यो लोकत्रयमाविश्य विवर्तव्यय ईश्वरः यस्मात् अक्षरमतीतोऽहम् अक्षरादपि चोत्तमः अतोऽस्मि लोके वेदे च प्रतितः पुरुषोत्तमः यो मामेवमसम्मूढः जानाति पुरुषोत्तमं स सर्वविद्भजति मां सर्वभावेन भारत इति गुह्यतमं शास्त्रम् इदमुक्तं मया नघ एतद्बुद्ध्वा बुद्धिमान् स्यात् कृतकृत्यश्च भारत ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे पुराणपुरुषोत्तमयोगो नाम पञ्चदशोऽध्यायः कृष्णार्पणमस्तु. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to the entire Gita clan and of course our Guruji Madhusudanji. Thank you.
Thank you, Kusamji. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll end the program with Omkara.
No, it's not.
So thank you very much, everyone. 2 hours, again, 2 hours past just 2 minutes. So thank you very much for joining. So let's catch up again next Sunday as we navigate through the tail end of the third kanda of the first adhyaya of the Mahaitareya Upanishad and then make our slow progress. So Hare Krishna. Take care, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.